Thank you.
I don't know if you were hearing what Mohamed was saying to us there. He was talking about hope for the future. But at this stage, just give us an idea of how significant you think this uprising has been in the last 48 hours.
It's very significant. It's taken everybody by surprise because the Egyptian opposition, led by various cyber activists, if you like, people who use Facebook and Twitter, have tried to mobilize nationwide protests before, but they've never succeeded really to such large numbers. And everybody, including myself actually, when I heard about their plans to stage a day of revolt, I said, well, there they go again. Everybody expected it to fizzle out really fairly quickly, but they were themselves surprised that so many people have come out on the streets. Significant? Yes. Will it go the way the Tunisian uprising has gone? It's too early to say, but clearly the crucial factor here has been the inspiration that the Egyptians derived from what happened in Tunisia. People, like all other people in the world, they look at their neighbors, they've got a new car, they want a new car. If they can do it, we can do it. They look at the Tunisians, they speak Arabic, they're largely from the same culture. They managed to bring down a man who's ruled them for 23 years. Mubarak has ruled for 30 years. There are many other similarities between the two countries. So many Egyptians who are frustrated, angry, unemployed, they think, well, why can't we do it? And I think that has played an important role. Inspiration from Tunisia. Just one more thing. It is amazing that to what extent the Egyptians on the streets of Cairo on Tuesday and Wednesday were using slogans borrowed directly from the Tunisian uprising. الشعب يريد إسقاط الحكومة. That's a slogan I've been hearing here in Tunisia for the past week. The Egyptians were shouting that, basically meaning the people want to bring down the government, and several other slogans. So it is very significant. It looks like the government in Egypt is nervous. Very much depends on how to what extent the demonstrators in Cairo and elsewhere will keep up the pressure. If they do, and the security forces feel overstretched, then it's very difficult really to predict what will happen next. Will the government call in the army? If they do, that is a very serious escalation and will make the government look as if they're losing control.
I would step in and say that, building on your point, the situation in Egypt is extremely unsustainable. I mean, when you have almost 40% of the population living under $2 a day, unemployment is on the rise, and this government has been there for 30 years confiscating civil liberties and rights and democracy. People can rest assured that this cannot go on for long, and people will step up their fight in order to bring this government down. And it's just unthinkable to begin to imagine that this can go on indefinitely. It's just wishful thinking. What this will depend on, however, especially in the next coming few days, is the ability of the organizers to reorganize themselves once again, perhaps through Facebook and other social media outlets, in order to come out on Friday in large numbers. And we've been seeing, we've heard news today that they're retracting a little bit, and that's why we're not seeing as many protesters out on the street today. But perhaps they're only giving themselves 48 hours in order to reorganize and come out in large numbers once again.
Let me bring in Noor, who's on the line from Kuwait. She's half Egyptian, half Syrian, lives in Kuwait. And also Samuel, who's on the line from Cairo. Noor, first of all, you've lived in Egypt for a number of years. Do you support the protesters?
I definitely do, because these are my people, these are my friends, and I can always sense the pain they have I love Egypt. I seriously do not care about politics, and I don't even understand, to be frank, anything about politics. But when I'm telling my friends that I love Egypt and I love being there and I love being with the people, and sometimes I notice people give me this weird look like, are we living on the same planet? And then they start to explain that the government is corrupt and Mubarak is trolling people and causing so much trouble, and they can't live, they can't eat, they can't do whatever they want, they can't express themselves, It's kind of, I don't know, I never got it, but these couple of days, I seriously, I couldn't sleep, because I can seriously feel the pain now, and I'm really outraged, and the media is not covering anything properly. Whenever I open a website, newspapers, even Egyptian newspapers, you can't find something that, I don't know how to say, I don't want to be rude, but it's not, they're not saying the truth, And
what is it that you think? What is it that you think isn't being told?
Everything. The numbers, the facts, whatever they're saying is that these are only the Brotherhood, Islamic Brotherhood, and they're just a couple of low-life piece of people.
But Nora, I guess there are a lot of international broadcasters who've got people on the ground, and international news organisations who've got people on the ground, and they're reporting what they see.
Mm-hmm. But let me tell you, I tried to open the Egyptian newspapers, nothing. Kuwaiti newspapers, nothing. Whenever I open BBC or CNN, whatever, I get what I want to, what I really believe, And then there's Facebook, and then there's my friends. There are my friends telling me the people are praying and they're sleeping and they're being nice and they're talking to the policeman, and then 1 second everything's okay and they're just hanging around, and then the other they just flip and start throwing things at people and shooting people, and but the media is not covering the event, and it's not even they're trying to cover up for something, and they don't understand.
Let's bring in Samuel, who's on the line. Just stay there for us, Nora. Let's bring in Samuel, who's been waiting patiently on the line from Cairo. Samuel, are you back in these protests?
What? Sorry?
Are you backing the protests?
No, yes, sorry, yes, I'm backing it. First I wasn't, but nobody has ever dreamed of this kind of civilized protests and of these numbers. First I was thinking it would be something barbaric and something not organized, but something that I'm very proud of.
So have you been out protesting yourself?
No, I'm not, unfortunately.
Is that through fear, because the government has said people will be arrested if they go out and demonstrate?
Yes.
You're sitting opposite me, Mohamed, nodding away. Do you think that there's a large swathe of people in Egypt who are too scared to go out?
I believe a lot are chained in this trap of fear. And what's interesting to see is that a lot of people who were afraid to speak in the past are participating today in these demonstrators. The vast majority of the youth out there on the street, they're not members of political parties. And so for them, it's the first time they're actually out there on the streets demonstrating. So, I personally can relate to this. If you asked me 2 years ago, perhaps, would I go out on a street against the Egyptian regime? I probably would have said no, because of the fear barrier. However, if you ask me the same question today, I won't even think about it twice.
So what's changed? It's the power of people pulling together, that you don't believe that everybody who goes out and protests can be arrested?
I don't believe that freedom is free. And we've seen that in the Tunisian case. You do have to pay a price in order to regain your freedom. It's not something that's going to be home delivered to you.
So do you think every Egyptian therefore has a responsibility to pay a price?
Absolutely.
Samuel, what do you think? Because you've said you're scared, but Mohamed's saying here that you've got a duty to all of your people to go out and pay a price, a personal price if necessary.
There's a big difference between us and between Tunisia. Tunisia, they knew, or they didn't knew. It was an outrage. It was not organized like us. And we are organizing something civilized. It must be violent, like Tunisia, to make a difference. And how can it turn to be violent? I don't know.
I haven't seen. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't characterize yesterday's protest as being violent. However, it began very, very civilized. I've seen images of men and women handing out flowers to policemen or to commemorate the police day. However, when the police responded with brutality, I've seen Egyptian people putting up a good fight. And people are not afraid anymore. And I think soon you will not be afraid either. It's your chance now to capitalize on it. And this is one chance that you may not get again for a few more decades.
Yeah, I'd be proud to join that. Maybe because of of my many thoughts, I've not moved to this point.
Magdi, it's fascinating. Magdi Abdulhadi is still with us, the BBC's Arab Affairs analyst. Fascinating to listen to this discussion between Mohamed and Samuel about this change in such a short space of time. You know, Mohamed's saying that he's not afraid anymore, and there's a personal price that everyone has to pay.
I think fear is quite a crucial theme, if I may put it this way, in Tunisia and also in Egypt, because when Mohamed Bouazizi, the young man who burnt himself, committed suicide basically because he wasn't allowed to sell vegetables on the streets of Sidi Bouzid, and then there were protests, police killed one of the protesters, and then there was a chain reaction that eventually led to the overthrow of President Zain al-Abidine Ben Ali. What happened? Something, shall we say, the Tunisian people collectively snapped, and that was sort of like broke through a barrier of fear, which was much worse actually than the Egyptian, because the Egyptian regime has tolerated a certain degree of dissent that enabled people to let off some steam, and this operated like a safety valve. That was absent in Tunisia. But once the Tunisians broke that barrier of fear, there was no going back. And the question now is whether the Egyptians have reached that point. We've seen incredible scenes on the streets of Cairo, this man, young man, almost single-handedly challenging the water cannon, people forcing the police on the retreat. This has never happened before. Of course, numbers are crucial. If the Egyptians come down on the streets in big numbers, they will overwhelm the police. But very important, if people break the barrier of fear, because the coercive machinery of the state in Egypt is enormous. If people say, all right, we've had enough, we're prepared to pay the price, if this happens, then I think they might very well be on the way. Might take longer time than Tunis, but be on the way on gaining more and more grounds of the public space, gaining more political rights, and putting the Mubarak and his regime more and more on the defensive.
Johnsky 2010 on the blog says this episode will not achieve any objectives, only death. Events across the border has prepared and hardened the Egyptian authorities. When you see the beard of your neighbour on fire, you begin to rub water on yours. Duncan on Facebook says this is the time for revolution in Africa. African leaders have abandoned their subjects in absolute poverty while they're busy feasting on taxpayers' money. This is a dawn of revolution in Africa. Now is the time. Go Africa. And Spee on Facebook says in Egypt it's pure madness, simply because they're following the footsteps of Tunisia. Shame, Egyptians, shame. Sam, who's an Egyptian blogger, is still with us. Sam, do you want to respond to some of those comments there?
I want to revise the last comment. What was it?
Spee says shame, Egyptians. Yeah, shame on you. It's pure madness. You're just following in the footsteps of Tunisia.
I don't think so. We were encouraged, but we were not just following someone. These groups that started these movements that led to this demonstrations was not formed at the point. They were formally done. It was it started from some incident called concerning an activist called Khalid Said. So we are not following anyone. It's just the Tunisians. They have encouraged us.
You've taken inspiration, but you're not following. Well, Sam, thank you very much for joining us. Sam, an Egyptian blogger in Cairo. Thank you also to Magdi Abdul Hadi, who's the BBC's Arab Affairs analyst, and also to Mohamed, who joined me here in the World Have Your Say studio. Berit in Norway says, this is scarier than Tunisia, but probably has to happen. Just hope it will be no bloodshed and dodgy groups fighting each other to get into power. Thank you for all of your comments, your texts, your tweets, and your phone calls today. I'll be back with you at the same time tomorrow. You can carry on talking about this and anything we talked about on the programme on our Facebook page.
BBC